are a kind of one-stop shop. So we do accountancy, mortgages, remortgages, insurance, IFA sort of work. We have a team of 50. We are a team over in UK, and we have a team in Sri Lanka too. We are CIMA and ACCA, regulated by both ACCA and CIMA. We are also ACCA and CIMA training partners. So a lot of our team go through rigorous training from ACCA and CIMA. Yeah, that's about me.
Yeah, awesome.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, no, I'm Mark. I work over with Simon Chaplin at the Accountants Mastermind, and we inspire, challenge, and support accountants to be the best they want to be, whether that's in their practice or outside. But so we help them grow their practice to where they want them to be by holding mastermind groups, so peer-to-peer growth rather than one-to-one. And Vijay is actually a member of one of our groups. So.
Yes.
So with kind of like with that in mind, with that growth in mind, Mark, obviously, growing a team starts by attracting them to begin with, and just getting the job description out there is almost like the first step sometimes, very often. So I know that you guys have a really good insight around creating something that stands out from a job description point of view when trying to find the great people out there. Just a really bland job description isn't really going to tick their boxes. So do you want to tell us a bit more about kind of like how you're seeing the market and how you're seeing kind of that tactical advice around creating a great job description that will attract great talent?
Yes, I mean, it's a common question over in our community that accountants can't find good people. And the interesting part is that every kind of time we've got involved with helping certainly our members out with rewriting their job adverts, it's had dramatically different results and helped them to find the right people. And I guess for me, it starts with knowing what you want the person to do. Because if you're not clear on what the job description is, and a lot of people think they are, it's interesting to see just how unclear they are. And then writing the advert for me as well is also very similar to writing marketing literature, sales literature, because in job adverts, it's always about the accountancy practice. And the phrase I think that is commonly used within the Accountants Mastermind is stop weeing all over your material. Because it's always about we do this, we do that, and we do the other. Well, people with marketing as well, people aren't interested in what we do, they're interested in what's in it for them. So the first step is to go through a job advert and take out all the we's and replace it with what's in it for them. And what they will experience if they work for you, what they will get. Some form of testimonial is always good. So those are the kind of starting points. So somebody that already works there telling you what it's like to work there, a bit like you would with a case study with a potential customer. What you want them to have. So then the skills they need, the abilities they need, and overall, the one thing that I know that Simon is particularly passionate about is the salary. So not a range, but what the remuneration is, because it's clear. Mm-hmm. And as with anything, clarity is always king. And it's a word I'll probably use quite a lot during this, because
it's clarity.
We believe that we're giving clear instruction, but essentially, I think half the time we're not. That's a short rundown from me. I know that Vijay, I think, has been through the process.
So I am guilty of producing boring job descriptions. I need to put my hands up saying, we produced some boring job description in the past, but we are working with Mark and Simon to make it much more interesting. Some of the things that we did by mistake in the past is using templates, right? So a lot of the jobs when we advertise from ACCA and CIMA job boards in Sri Lanka. So they have a certain template, and we tend to use those templates. And I think what we are thinking of doing now is not use those templates, completely rewrite something that, what Simon and Mark are mentioning about them rather than us. Because what we want is whether people are interested in a particular job, then, whether they are right fit for them, right? So we are working on it. So I am guilty, like a lot of other accountants out there. I think getting the correct job description out there is the key to getting good candidates, good CVs, right? So I think if we don't have a good job description, I don't think we get good CVs. I think the starting point should be quite clear, concise, and quite transparent with the salaries and benefits and study sponsorship, study leave, etc.
One of the dangers, I think, of the trap that people get in, excuse me, with putting a bracket of salary is getting someone on the cheap. And that starts the whole process off in the wrong place. Because if you want somebody that's worth what you need to pay in order to get somebody, if they don't turn out to be worth it, then obviously that's a different conversation. But the reality is, if you offer a bracket, you kind of wanting to A, negotiate, and B, say, well, actually, if they haven't quite got this, we'll offer them a lower salary. But if you want it, then invariably you need to stick to your guns.
Absolutely.
It's so interesting you say that. Again, from our side, it's a bit of a different market, obviously tech market, but in some cases it's very similar to that as well, in the sense of folks just really want clarity around what are they signing up for, essentially from day one. So being clear on what the mission is, what the values are, and what the essentially comp package is going to look like has been super important for us as well. So I guess it's kind of like a concern throughout. And I would say that's almost like a shared human concern, just knowing whether this is going to be worth a while or not. So yeah, totally makes sense. I do have a question for Wijay. Vijay, so in terms of the, so you mentioned that you guys are at 50 headcount right now. So you're clearly doing like a really good job of attracting folks into the practice. But how do you interview and also how do you identify the best people that come through from those job applications?
So one thing that we believe in, taking people in a very junior level and giving them the training and getting them on the ladder. So a lot of our people are joining on a very bottom level, and we sponsor their ACC or CIMA. That means they're with us the whole of training program, and they're with us until they pass through all the exams, right? So we give that support. I personally feel quite proud and happy when somebody's fully qualified through my firm. So that is working well for us, and that worked well for us throughout the years. That's the main reason we have such a large ground. Obviously, like any other institution, we do have people leaving and joining, but comparatively on industry, I think Touchwood lucky enough to have a strong team, and I'll discuss what things we do quite differently keep those people. But one of the key things is we do believe in people going on the ladder within the firm, so we put a lot of emphasis on that. That's probably one of the main reasons, because we really focus on training. We really focus on getting them qualified. After qualification they might not stay with us, but we are quite proud that we were there for them through their training journey.
Yeah, for sure. Mark, any insights that you've seen in terms of running an effective interview process as well?
Sorry,
Mark, I'll let you go.
Well, no, it's just some of the things that I think always are valuable is if you've got a team in place already, get the team to help interview, because they're the ones that will know if they'll fit in better. And technical tests are always the forgotten art, I think, of proving somebody is going to tell you something. How many times have you had somebody rock up after going through a 3-stage interview process, and they turn up on day one and you say, right, I just need you to do X, and they look at you blankly and they don't know. So technical tests are a very simple one, I think, that often gets overlooked. But one of the biggest ones is profiling. So personality profiling, We use Talent Dynamics, but there are lots of others out there. And the other great thing about the Talent Dynamics profiling as well, just to go back to the original point, is if you've got somebody in your team who you say, I wish I could replicate them, I wish I could clone them, profile them, write the job advert to speak to that team member about what it is exactly that they do. Because if you write it in their language, you're going to get an exact copy of that type of personality. And I think there's lots that we did it with one of our members. They said, I really want to replace or want to clone X. And the first, they were already doing profiling, so that helped. And then they integrated some of that within the template, within the job adverts, and written in the language that they understand. And all of a sudden they get people come in the door that are the same.
Wow, that's super interesting. Is that something that you've done as well, Vijay?
So we are quite different. So because what we do is, so I am getting a lot of tips from Simon and Mark. So I am at the moment kind of revamping, because we've just done the full revamp on the onboarding, as you know, which you helped me out. So next my action list is just revamp my staff onboarding process, right? So current process, obviously, I'm not happy, but I like to improve that. I'm someone who's like to improve things constantly. So currently, we do a bit of phone screening at the beginning. Then just understand what they need. And I don't like the word interview personally, because it makes me nervous, and I'm sure if it's a candidate, that makes them nervous too. So it's more like a discussion. I like to call it. So even my team, I tell them it's a discussion we're going to have, not the interview. So just a discussion, understanding where they are and what they want to do. And if we are if we're right fit, we'll get them to come for a kind of assessment center at office, and they'll meet a couple of our guys in the office. They do an interview, and then if they're happy, they will shortlist, and I do the final interview, or one of my directors will do the final interview. Again, it's most of the time I like to put them into ease, right? Just having a casual chat about where they are and what they are with their studies, etc. Because it makes them it's a nerve-wracking experience, right? Having an interview. So yeah, the process is that obviously it differs to company to company. I know an accountant who asks people to do the video, kind of a video answer session and send them a video. But I've never done that, because a lot of things skills that I look for is more technical rather than more marketing stuff. I'm saying that there are a few people who service clients. We do expect a lot of client service skills from them too. But a lot of our processes, traditional processes, phone interview, assessment center, one-to-one. And the one main thing that we go through is, after I interviewed, after my team interviews, we sit and we think whether they're the right fit for the team. That's one of the main things we look for. The attitude, people might have massive qualification, people might have good skills, but if they're not the right fit for the team that we already have, we think they might not be the right people to work for us. So that's something that we really emphasize. So that's the other reason, kind of different people interview when they come to, because we really, really focus on whether that person will be a fit for our culture, fit for our team, etc.
Yeah. So I'd say that from listening to you both, that there are almost like three takeaways. The first one being, make sure that you involve the team, super important. The second one being very, very clear on having some sort of technical assessment and what that small technical assessment is. And then lastly, just being very clear on the values and the traits of the person that you're looking for, and try to write that job ad in a language that resonates with that kind of personality as well. So those are pretty awesome things. Now, once they get in the door, how do you onboard them? Mark, any suggestions from your side?
I have a couple very short and sweet ones, to be honest, but give absolute clarity on day one. And what that looks like is skills matrix. And I'll briefly explain in case anybody's not 100% sure. So basically, the stuff that you've already identified in the job description as what they need to do can be a list of things that they need to learn how to do, because obviously there's your way and everybody else's way and everything else. So there's a list of those items, and as long as they've already got processes in place for those, you can extend it and say whether they've done it or not, or you can review it every week as to how they're getting on. And again, I would always rate them as opposed to they've had the training, and now they're competent in doing it. So you've got 2 bits of rating, but also you can break it down into when they're meant to have it done by, because obviously they're going to have this long list of things they need to do, and you don't want them to think they've got to do it day one. Prepare for their arrival. Spend some time with them. Don't just let them go, hey, yeah, welcome, there's a desk. Oh yeah, we didn't get the computer sorted out. We didn't get the login sorted out. We'll do that for you. I think it's massively important for someone to feel wanted day one. And we've all been guilty, I'm sure, of not making them feel welcome. There was a really good one which came from Heather at Go Proposal, which I really liked, was not making them sit there when there's nothing for them to do. So give them a diary of events of what's going to happen, and then send them home at 2 o'clock if there's nothing else for them to do. And the same with any other days. You know, they're not going to be the most useful person day one, but for them to sit around from 2 till 5, twiddling their thumbs, wondering what's happening, and just sitting there feeling alone, it's the worst. It's the worst thing. So yeah, for me, it's getting clarity on what's expected of them. That doesn't have to be day one, but it needs to be in the first few days, so that they've got an idea of where they're going, because people want to know where they're going. Many don't want to just float around. Don't let them get bored. Make sure that you're prepared for arrival, and that's, that for me, they're quite key for it.
So we do, when somebody walks on day one, we assign a buddy, so that person has someone to go to, so that person kind of takes them for coffee, lunch, and just almost dedicated to the newcomer. I am working on this like a pack that Simon and Mark does at the Greenstones, like a welcome pack with bus software they do, not expecting to memorize, but bus and areas, coffee shop, etc. Which we like to do, but we do give a small kind of a welcome pack with a mug and a notebook and a lot of the traditional stuff. But the welcome pack that Simon and Mark does is quite informative. So it has the quite and it's written on a very informal language too, which kind of inspired me to do for my firm. And I think I've seen the video that they're kind of promoting through, I think, Trello, Asana, the things that they have for the what to expect on a day one and first week and first month, etc. That's something to do. If you don't have anything, best to have at least a one pager with what are the softwares used, where to log in, how to reset the password, sort of thing.
Just really quickly on that, and the worst thing anyone can do is write that induction themselves. The best person to write the induction is the most recently inducted person, because they know what's missing. They know what they weren't told on day one. I think there's a question on there that Simon uses at Greenstones, is what did you wish you knew on day one of starting at Greenstones? And and you can ask everybody that question, but if someone's been there for 10 years, it's not as important, because they'll put, I wish I knew what the 10-year senior practice managers knew how they had their coffee, because that's just what they want people to know. But it's really important because you write stuff that you think people want to know, right? We all do it in everything we do, but the people who are new are the ones that want to know where the coffee shop is, where the nearest sandwich shop is, where where the toilets are. It's stupid things like that. Do I have to raise and put my hand up to ask Wijay if I can go to the toilet? And
yeah, exactly. Oh my God.
Just
You guys triggered some old memories, I'll be honest. I think the buddy idea is fantastic. We'll probably nick that one. And the roadmap has been super useful. We're going to sort of open source our onboarding as well, mostly because interestingly enough, our onboarding doesn't look that different from yours, even though we're like in a completely different business. So everything just starts way before they even came in the door. I think like about 2 weeks, something like that. And that's when we start really the onboarding process. And then just having that clarity, at least on week one, on here are the entire activity schedule, and pretty much like Mark suggested, someone is done around 2 o'clock first day, that's fine. Hang around if you want, but if you don't want, go do something else, which is a really good idea too. And on the flip side of all of that, I do recall this one time where I joined a software company back in Lisbon many years ago, almost like 20 years ago. And I was 2 months months. This isn't weeks or days, 2 months waiting for a computer. So for the first week, I literally just sat on the desk with a pile of papers, like reading through the documentation and everything, just waiting. And it was absolutely horrible. So yeah, I hope that no one has to go through that.
Similar experience, but I joined the company once and they couldn't create an email address for me because my name was too long. So they had to go through different places to get approval to get a email because that's a long name.
Yeah.
It's just you want people to feel wanted, right? It's
seriously,
absolutely.
It's where it is. Yeah. They want to be wanted.
And welcomed. Yeah,
exactly. So one thing we do. Important. And one thing we do also tell the newcomers is that, I always tell them, you come with a fresh pair of eyes. If you think what is not right, please let us know. We're very open door. If you think we can improve something, even on, onboarding, interview, anything, just let us know. We're happy to take on that boat, right? And we tell that from day one because, we've been doing stuff for the last, 12, 13 years in a certain way. If fresh pair of eyes look at it and say, why have we doing this? You can use this software, this app to, make your life easier. We are very open to, those ideas and suggestions.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I want to kind of like take a 2-second break here and just ask everyone, like, if you have any questions, just add them to the Q&A or add them to the chat. We'll be more than happy to go through it. If you have some really cool ideas to share as well, let me know, and I'll loop you into the panelists, and we'll do open mic, which is an innovation, I guess, in this sort of thing. So yeah, Wijay, you touched on something like really interesting, is obviously scaling the team, and you mentioned at the beginning that you guys have offices in 2 different countries. So tell us a bit more about that. Like, how do you scale a team to the numbers that you guys have and still maintain that quality and attract those high performers?
Yeah. So, the biggest question you have is when you scale is whether you want to onshore or offshore or, or outsource, right? We felt, we liked to have the control of it, and we knew because we came from Sri Lanka, we always knew that Sri Lanka produced a lot of quality accountants because, I think after UK, CIMA and ACCA, for example, have the largest number of students enrolling from Sri Lanka. So we thought that's the route to go, obviously, cost reasons too. And that proved really well for us. And that was successful, which means some other accountants use us to, some other accountants and some other firms use us to provide their services to Sri Lanka. The scaling factor and the second thing is outsourcing, right? You don't have to, offshore, onshore, outsource everything. There are certain functions you can, outsource or offshore. For example, marketing, I'm not good at marketing. So my SEO is done by somebody completely different, but the part of the team loves doing, graphics, and then so they do kind of internal marketing too. So, because, their day-to-day job is doing accounts, but, they love doing, other stuff also. So I delegate that some of the work to, those guys too. When it comes to scaling, I think the main question you need to ask is, which route do you want to take, right? Do you want to do onshore? Do you want to do offshore? Do you want to outsource? Do you want to mix bag of different things? So we have a bit of a mixed bag. We have, around 10 people sitting in UK, around 40 people in Sri Lanka. So, and, some functions are outsourced, etc. But, you need to ask. Second thing is, anything that comes to scaling, you need to understand whether you got the IT infrastructure ready. So we are huge cloud and digital. So from day one, when we started 12 years ago, even that time we were paper free. We've been telling clients, we don't do anything paper, everything electronic. So even if you walk into office, you wouldn't see a lot of paper lying here and there because we are completely kind of digital. So if you are a digital firm, your offshoring function becomes quite easy because it's just platforms and softwares and all that, right? Whereas if you're heavily paper driven and you want to always signatures, obviously it's going to be quite difficult. So that's my view. I think if you any decisions you make, first understand what your infrastructure is, and what your clients will feel about offshoring, outsourcing, etc. and then make the decision based on that.
Yeah, pretty awesome. And Mark, I know that the Accountants Mastermind growth is always a hot topic. What kind of advice can you share with the rest of us here in terms of just scaling an effective team?
Well, if I can just touch very quickly on what Wijay just said as well, the interesting thing for me is the question that comes up a lot is, should I offshore? Should I outsource? Should I employ here? All those questions. And one of the things for me is, and again, you know, we're on a call with Pixie, so I should mention practice management software. And that's another, you know, there's probably two of the biggest questions that often come up. Now, the problem for me is, and as it's your webinar, I shall choose my words and language a lot more carefully than what if we were hosting one. But it's a terrible question. Should I offshore? Should I? It's terrible because people don't know anything about your practice. So for me, and Wijay, I know, would have done a lot of work on this and continues to do so. When he wants to grow again, he doesn't just go, we'll do this or we'll do that and pluck something out of the sky. There's work to be done. There's questions to ask around getting clarity on what it is you're after, because one will work for somebody. And Wijay and I have had this conversation. You can't just say, well, I think I should outsource, or should I outsource, because there's so many other questions involved, and you've got to break that down. And again, going back to practice management system, you know, what is it that you want it to do? Because if I say to somebody, what's the best practice management system, Wijay's going to answer Pixie, right? So because he uses it and it solves his problems, but that's the key. Yeah. What solves the problem? So you need to write down, for me, a minimum of five things that you need out of your next team member to do, and you'll get a better idea of whether that needs to be outsourced, offshored, here, whatever it is, because there's lots of different options other than those, just those three. There's hybrids of them and all, and that kind of thing. So for me, again, it comes down to absolute clarity of what you need, and by all means ask the question of other people, but it has to be a loaded question with what your problems are.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do, you know, practice management, because it's easy for me, because the question comes up all the time, is what pain? What do you want to solve? Do you want to solve onboarding your customers? Do you want to solve process management? Do you want to solve emails from the system, contact from the system, and all that kind of stuff? If they, you know, write down your top 5 minimum, and then say, I want to be able to do this. What do you recommend? And somebody will come on and go, well, Pixie does all of those. And somebody else will come on and go, this company does 4 of those. And so therefore you're able to make a better decision and save yourself some time. And that's the same, sorry, just to deviate off, but that's exactly the same process for me. And that's more important than just going, I'm going to offshore, or I'm going to outsource because I believe it's cheaper, or I believe it's going to work better for me. Why? What pain do you need to solve? Sorry, that doesn't answer that original question, does it? But
it's actually a very interesting direction. Ultimately, making decision just based purely on cost and not on outcome is one of the biggest things that I feel would affect the growth of any business, because ultimately you can't really cut your way to cost in terms of growth. So from that point of view, I think it's quite handy to just keep it front of mind and going, okay, you know, it costs whatever it costs, as long as you know exactly what you want, you have that clarity. And it's great because on the other side, the other person will also know, or the other team members will also know what's expected of them. I think that benefits everyone really, and that just makes scaling a bit easier, because you can articulate what is it that we're looking to do next, or what's the next level, what's the next stage, how long do you expect it to take us to get there, etc. So even then, it's great as a motivator, right? Because ultimately, it just makes everyone align towards what goals we need to achieve, and not necessarily just the cost of getting there.
Yeah, and as accountants, there's an additional thing they'll find very easy to do is factor in the cost of getting it wrong.
Yeah.
So you go and employ somebody offshoring, and it's the wrong decision. Fundamentally, it's the wrong decision, but it was cheaper. you're going to spend 3 months working out that that's the wrong decision, if not longer, because you'll persevere with it because you've made the decision. So it might even last 6 months. So making that decision has cost you money, as opposed to perhaps outsourcing instead of offshoring, or whichever way around it is. So
exactly. Makes a lot of sense. Vijay, did you want to add anything?
No, on the scaling factor and increase the number of team members. I think before all that, as Mark said, what problem is going to solve, right? Whether I know some accountants who do not want to scale. They just happy with a couple of team members, happy with their growth and the numbers. And there are other accountants who want to grow, who want to make a bigger impact. And so you need to ask yourself first, what route you want to take, and what life do you want, right? So and answering those questions will effectively give you answers to the onshore, offshore, all those other things.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk for a second about retaining a team. Now that we hired, we've found the right people. What are your tricks to kind of like just retain that team of high performers? And obviously, Vijay already mentioned at the beginning that you don't mind too much if they just fly away from the nest. But I'd love to understand kind of like, and I really appreciate that support. I think it's very, very timely and very in line with what current trends are in terms of employment. But still, like, what do you guys do there to really try and retain that top talent?
I think what we need to understand is, everybody who walks into our door are adults and who are accountable, who can take responsibility, who can work on their own, right? So as long as you place the trust on them and empower them and delegate work to them, you need to trust that they will do a job. Obviously, there should be controls in place to, review and, sign off stuff. But you do need to trust them, and you do need to encourage them to come up with ideas. Some of them might be really daft, some of them might be the brilliant ideas we ever heard. But you do need to encourage. So you do need to encourage and empower them. And they will make mistakes, no doubt about it, right? But when they make mistake, are you supporting them to correct those mistakes and making sure that that's not repeated? And also making sure they keep up with all the training stuff, right? We as accountants, it's just like doctors and surgeons. They need to know all the fundamentals if they want to become qualified accountant in 3-4 years. So we put a lot of emphasis on the training, which is why ACC and CIMA has signed up with us as partners. So we put a lot of emphasis in training, and things that we do is when somebody comes in, we don't just bombard with them with everything at day one. There's a plan. So they have a 3-year plan. The first 6 months they'll do this, next 6 months that, and so they see a progress. It's not they don't do the same thing over and over. That keeps them quite interesting too, and also show them a career progress, right? So that's working well for us. So hopefully we'll continue doing the same, and also other things like culturally, culture. So we have a we do trips, we do team day outs, we do like cultural functions, and we have 3 partners. So we kind of very often we try to go to Sri Lanka and spend the time with them. So and have Zoom meetings once in a while. So yes, it's a lot of things. A lot of things come. The beauty of it is I have some staff members who've been worked with us some time, and they might be in different countries, who still keep in touch. And when they go to Sri Lanka, they go and see the team. So that makes you hugely proud, right? Because these are the people who work for me. They're not even staff, but they still have some affection towards the company. They got qualified. So that's quite pleasing. And also, as I told you earlier, I absolutely feel a lot of proud when people go through the training program and come out as qualified accountants. No word to put it, right? Selfishly, it's amazing feeling that you see one of the juniors joined as a kind of a very junior level and pass the exams and qualified accountant and becoming a client manager. So that progress, when I see them, it's just amazing feeling. Can't put that in words.
Fantastic. Empowerment, investment in people sounds like the two key aspects. for you guys. Mark, from your side, you have visibility over what hundreds of firms are doing. Tell us a bit more about that.
Well, it's interesting because I was smiling a lot during what Vijay was saying on the basis that Vijay has heard. We have a couple of speakers within the mastermind groups, and one of them has drastically changed my view on leadership. And for me, this is, you know, retaining them is all about leadership, not necessarily about them. Yeah. And I always start with, and it's interesting because Vijay's obviously already said it, but the quote, I think it was Branson, that says, "What if we train them and they leave?" Well, hang on. What if we don't train them and they stay? And that's always rings true in my head. It's really powerful when you stop and actually think about, hang on a minute. If we train good people and they do go, it's better than if we don't train them and we have crap people just bumbling around doing an average job. But for me, it stems from company culture, empowering the values, clarity on what people should be doing. And as Vijay will know, the stuff that I'm about to dive into very quickly is, and he mentioned the word empowerment. So one of the speakers we have talks about bounded empowerment. Mm-hmm. A really interesting 2-word phrase. So they have empowerment to do certain things, but it's bounded within a set of rules. And the best way I can describe it, Vijay might have a better version, but best way I can describe it is if you think of a football game. So a manager can do whatever he wants on that pitch, can pick whatever formation he likes, he can do whatever he wants, he can have them kicking it high up in the air, he can have him passing like Pep does on the floor. But the reality is it's within a set of rules. And everybody within that team has a set of rules they must. So the goalkeeper, the manager has to pick one goalkeeper. Everybody has to play within the lines. Everybody has to put the ball in the net in order to get a goal. Everybody has to stop it in order not to concede a goal. They're not allowed to touch it with their hands except for the goal. So there's rules within place. But a manager will have empowerment to do whatever he wants within that set of rules. And it's important to get the bounded part of the empowerment in place. And as I say, the Mark talks about 4 types of people within an organization: actively disengaged, aka terrorists. So they are not interested and they spread this bad vibe around the company. And then you have anarchy. So if you've got high freedom and low clarity, you have anarchy. So people are just doing whatever they want and nothing really gets done properly and everything else. And then you have high clarity and low freedom, which is robots. And where the robots are is they're completely driven by process and systems, which in the first few months is what you want, because you want them to do stuff in the way that it needs to be done in order to get it. But then you need to move them to high freedom, high clarity, which is actively engaged team members. And I will pick Vijay up, he knows I am. They're not staff, they're team members. Because culturally, there's a big difference of what that word means to someone as well. Yeah. And he knows I'm only playing. But so the team member who has high clarity and high freedom are those people that Vijay is talking about. They are empowered to say, Vijay, we do this and it takes me an hour to do. If we do this, this and this, it will take half an hour and we get the same result. So they're challenging the process, they're challenging the status quo, but they're still getting the end result, which is what we all need to do. So for me, clarity, and then you bring in the freedom afterwards. And as long as they know what they're doing, they're going to learn. And it shouldn't just be about them doing everything they say on day one, because again, there's another speaker who talks about, what's the subject? Anyway, I'll move on. Creativity. So creativity, and he says there's a function that every business has that crushes creativity in any team member, and he says it's called why have I lost my words again? Probation.
Oh boy, yes.
so Celso, you're starting today, and this is how we do things around here. Don't deviate from it. Yeah. So you've killed all the creativity within somebody to challenge the status quo, and it's a really interesting topic. Both of them merged together, it makes for great team members, And for me, it's got to start with the values. Everyone needs to know what the values are and what they mean, and they need to live by them, and they need to prove that they can live by them. And then it's moving them on from, as I say, the two need to be robots and then actively engaged.
Other point about actively engaged, Mark. Other point is over time you can't keep them on actively engaged. You have to keep giving them additional responsibilities. You have to keep more than, because if you keep them on same over time, they're going to become robots, right? So you need to kind of keep increasing their levels and keep empowering them and giving them extra responsibilities.
This is really interesting. I think we should do a follow-up conversation almost just on this specific topic. And yeah, it'd be awesome to have your lessons learned, going to 50 people in the team. That said, we're almost like running out of time. So I would encourage everyone, if you have any final questions, just put them through the Q&A. In the meanwhile, however, Mark, Vijay, any closing remarks from you guys in terms of attracting and retaining top talent?
Mark, I'll let you go.
all of the above, really. Watch the video again and go back through it. No, it's very difficult as a business or a practice owner, and I know I've been there and letting go. And one of the things that Vijay touched on, which is really powerful, is creating an environment where you allow people to make mistakes. And as a control freak, that's very difficult. I'm talking from experience. I'm not tarnishing anybody with that brush.
And the trust. And the trust, right? So letting go comes with when you trust people to do stuff. That's very important. You should trust people will do the job, and you know that they will make mistakes, but that shouldn't be a blame culture. You just have to accept mistakes will happen, and the real character comes out when what you do when those mistakes happens, right? So fostering talent and managing high performance is basically trusting, letting it go, empowering them. I think that's kind of the summary I would say.
Yeah, and a tip, and I don't want to end on a negative, so we'll boost it back up afterwards. But a tip is, if the probation or whatever it is you give people is 3 or 6 months, and let's assume it's 6 months, the bit I like the most about this particular bit is that is when you will get the very best of a person you've taken on. If the very best is not good enough, that's you need to make that decision quick. Don't think it's going to change, because once they've got their job and their contract, that's when you will inevitably get the dip. So you will only ever get the very best of somebody in the probation, and if that's not good enough, then you need to make a decision quick. I know that's the flip side of everything, but don't keep trying thinking that you've made a mistake in hiring. Just move on.
And I would say that's an excellent point. I'll try not to put in too much, but the reason why I say that is that the team can feel it as well, right? If they see someone and they feel, oh, okay, this person isn't up to our standards, very quickly that starts to demoralize everyone, which is kind of like the very first quadrant that you mentioned, Mark, as well. Like in my head, there was a very specific word I will refrain from using it here, but I could immediately just picture that exact person who's dragging everyone's performance down. So yeah, interesting things for sure. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Vijay. Thank you also to everyone that joined us today. Thank you, Julie, for putting up with us during the backstage talk. Definitely appreciate that. And are
you okay if I just put the link in the we're doing a whole day on this in December, and if you're interested, I will put the link in the chat now. If you book before the 11th, the midnight on the 11th of November, you'll get your £60 discount, but also as a Pixie community member, I will also let you have a copy of Simon's book, Banish the Bottleneck, which talks about team days, which Vijay has done, and also KPIs of how to keep people engaged. I'll hand that to you on the day. If you come and make yourself known to me, you can have that for free. So
there we go. amazing offer, everyone. I can definitely recommend anything and everything that comes out of the Accountants Mastermind. I've reviewed the books that you folks write, a lot of the collateral as well, and it's definitely exciting. And I know that talking to many of your clients as well, that you guys are doing great work there. So absolutely recommend this, and especially for anyone who's looking into expanding and hiring to their teams. So with that in mind, thank you very much again, everyone. Have a great day, and we'll catch up later. Take care.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.